All right, we're back. It's only been 2 months, and I figured it was time to finish up the first meet before we start the journey to the second meet. Sorry for the shadows. It's December 16th now, which means it gets dark pretty early, and we're out in the barn where we have new equipment. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But first, we're going to talk about what happened between October 12th and October 17th, the day of the meet. And here we go. Last time I talked to you, we were 5 days out. I just finished up my mini meet. I'd hit my openers and we were good to go. Except we weren't. I was still 10 pounds overweight. I weighed 250.2 on Wednesday before the weigh-in on Friday, and I had to weigh 242 and a half, so I was almost 8 pounds overweight still with only 2 days to go. Now, my family is a wrestling family. My son wrestled in college and he was quite good at it, and he cut a lot of weight, and there was no way I was going to miss this weight after all those years of asking him to make weight. So basically, I woke up the morning on Wednesday at 250.2. I knew I had a lot of weight to lose, and so I ate a very light lunch on Wednesday, and after that, I didn't eat or drink until Friday morning. When I woke up Friday morning, I weighed 240 and a half, which put me 2 pounds underweight. I'd lost 10 pounds in that day and a half, most of it just from not eating or drinking. A little bit of sweating, but mostly it was just 36 hours of don't eat. I guess it was 40 hours of don't eat. But anyway, the reason I went all the way down to 240 and a half because I had no frame of reference for where my scale was. I didn't know if my scale was going to match their scale, and you don't want to think you were underweight and show up and be a half pound over, and it's like, oh my gosh, I did all this for nothing. So I went in at 240 and a half is what I weighed that morning. Laura had come home on Thursday night, and we got up on Friday morning. We drove to Atlanta, and I got out of the hotel, went inside, stood in line with a bunch of other grumpy people who were going to make weight, and I didn't know what I was doing, but it all went smooth. The people there, apparently there's a pretty large turnover. A lot of people show up for their first meet, and this was my first meet. So I was like a lot of other people. I didn't know what I was doing exactly, but it went fine. I weighed in at 240 pounds even, so I lost another half a pound between the time we left the house to the time I weighed in, or their scale was a little under mine. I don't know. I was pretty dry, but I was very happy to eat and drink. Went and ate at Waffle House, and it was fantastic. It was right across the street, and it was the perfect place. Laura and I hung around the hotel for the rest of the day. We didn't go anywhere, do anything, because I was trying to rehydrate. I had to get water back into me. I don't know what I weighed when we actually did the meet the next morning. I actually woke up early. I woke up at about 5:45, which is extremely early for me. I had gone to bed early the night before, and that worked out well. Showed up at the meet, didn't know what to expect. The meet was not in the room where we'd weighed in, and it was across the hall. And we walked in, the room was significantly larger than I thought it was. There was literally a stage that we were all going to work on. And I walked in, and we're all wearing face masks. And about 30 minutes after we'd all been there, the face masks were gone. Nobody was wearing a mask anymore. Some of the spectators were. And eventually the hotel complained about it and said if we were in public places, we had to wear a mask. So we tried to comply. Most of us did. But now we're into the meet proper. I was in Group D. Group D is the big boys. These are guys that have totals that are quite literally nearly double what mine was going to be. And when I saw it, I was like, man, I have no business being here. I mean, these guys have been working out for years, and I'd been working out for literally weeks. And I hadn't even qualified for months, couldn't make months plural yet. But regardless, that's the group I was in, and I didn't get to choose it. It is because of my weight. It's not the weight I was going to pick up. It was how much I weighed that determined which group I was in. And the lightest guy goes first because they're going to add weight. So on every lift, I was the first guy out, and it was my first meet. And early on, I decided, okay, you cannot watch these guys. You cannot compare yourself to these guys. They're going to crush you as far as the actual lifting goes. So I went out to do my own thing, and I did pretty well in my own mind. Obviously, we do squats first, and squats were a big unknown for me. I'd managed to get 310, and that's where I started. And I went out and failed. Yep, didn't get my first lift, and it annoyed me. I didn't go low enough, and I went as low as I thought I could. Same problem that I finished the last video on, the same concern. So instead of going up, I had planned to do 310, 330, and 350. Those were going to be my weights for the squat. But I went out there, and you take the squat off the rack, and they take the bar off the rack, and the referee, you look at him when you stop moving, and he says squat, and you go down and you stand up. Well, that second time I went out at 310 again, I swear my butt touched the ground. And when I came off, the lady said, okay, you just barely got that. And I was like, holy smokes, what more can I do? I mean, it feels like my thighs are crashing into my calves. I don't know how I'm supposed to get lower than that. Went out for my third attempt and got 330. Okay, so I'd set the state record when I did 310, and I reset it at 330 after that. So I've got my first state record if I finish the meet. Next was bench, and this happened. It was from the time the meet started to the time that we lifted was about 2 hours. So we didn't do our first lift because they only had one station running. We didn't do our first lift until 11 o'clock. We didn't do bench until after 1, maybe 1:30. So I was thinking that we would be done by 2 or 3. And we were just starting our second lift when I thought we'd be finishing. So I decided to do 260, 265, and 270 on my bench. And it's because of the pause at the bottom. It's also because there's three commands on the bench press stage. It is start, lift, and rack. And I thought that being my first time, there was a pretty good possibility that I'd screw up at least once. So I wanted my lifting to actually not be my biggest concern. So I went out there, and to be perfectly honest, it was easy. I did 260 real easy. I did 265, and I felt it at least at 270. I mean, I had to try a little harder. Now, sometime during the bench press, Laura had alerted me that they were broadcasting the meet on YouTube and that our family was watching. And so when I was walking off the mat, out of the stage, the guy yelled at me and said, "Hey, they told me to tell you your grandchild's doing well." Oh, I forgot about this. The same time that we were waiting to the night of the 16th was the night that my fifth grandchild was born, young Lachlan, wee baby Lachlan, as we call him. And they were still at the hospital, but because of COVID, we couldn't be there anyway. Yes, I wasn't there. And when I made the registration for the event, I debated, do I do it or not? Because my daughter-in-law's due date was a couple weeks after this, and she always goes early, always. So, okay, we'll make it. But because of COVID, we couldn't have been there anyway. So when I'm walking off the stage, the announcer, the guy that's broadcasting the event, John, says, "Hey, your grandson is going to be able to go home in a little while," which just tickled me to death. They were also talking about my boots, and we'll talk about my boots another time. Well, maybe we'll get to them. But it was fun going back and forth, and the announcer and I had conversations after every lift after that. And that set up for the deadlift. I've got my 2 state records. I want 4. So if I hit my opening deadlift at 385, it's not a state record for the deadlift, but it will set the state record for the total. So I go out there, and I've been picking up 405 pretty regular. And I've spoken about it before. When I grab the bar, it's got so much more grip. It makes the weight feel lighter. And I picked up the bar at 385, and I thought, man, that was easy. So I thought, maybe I can do this. So my next lift, I wanted to have 2 chances to set the record at 430 pounds. And damn, Laura wasn't able to get in position for the first one, and she didn't get it recorded. But I did, in fact, pick up 430 pounds on my second lift in the deadlift. And that was the 4th record. But I'm going to tell you, it was everything I had. And after I'd gotten that, I'd got my 4 records, I was happy. My body just relaxed. And we'd been there for almost 10 and a half hours at that point. Our day had started, and it was 10 and a half hours later, and I was so tired. And all I can say is that my focus just completely disappeared. And I did, in fact, go out and try to lift 440 after that, but I didn't get it more than a few inches off the ground. I started helicoptering because of my offset grip, and I set it down. And I finished the day. And so I finished, my total was only 1030, which is not impressive, but it's still 150 pounds more than the record was. So that's a good thing. Now, we left, we went to McDonald's, and it was glorious because I hadn't eaten anything all day long. All I'd had was gel packs and caffeine. Food was fantastic. My nervous system was shot. My hands were shaking just nonstop. I don't think I could have done any more on the deadlift. I could have got some more on the bench press. I probably could have gotten more on the squats. But at the end of the day, the goal for that day was just to get the records. And we did that. Which leads us up to now. We've been lifting for the last 2 months. I took 2 weeks off because I literally couldn't walk after the meet. I couldn't walk more than 15 or 20 steps at a time. My hips were hurt so bad. I took a week and a half off, 10 days, before I lifted anything again. And since then, we've been getting ready for the meet that is in 2 days. Today's Wednesday. This time, I only weigh 247, not 250, so I don't have as much weight to lose. That's a good thing. But yeah, we start all over again tomorrow. My rack did come in finally. It is fantastic. It is rock solid. It was worth the wait, and it is a big upgrade from the bench that I had. I was working out a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. I don't remember exactly when I got this thing in finally. It was near the end of November. I was trying 290 because, I told you that I don't do heavy weight. I do what I think I can do. And the right side of my old bench broke. The actual plywood snapped. And so 290 went like this. Fortunately, I had some spotters there that day, and they saved me. Or else it would have been ugly. I'd have dumped the weight one side and then dumped the weight the other side. But that was the first time I'd put that much weight on that bench, that old 30-year-old bench, and it broke. I actually broke it. It's sitting in the yard right now. And 2 days later, this one arrived. So it all worked out. But next video, I'll probably have a video about what I did getting ready for this meet, how it's different than the last meet. I don't like what I did this time. I'm not happy with it. I liked what I did the first time better. But we're still going to push our records higher. The goal of the first meet was to set the record. This is to push them higher. And, I don't have dreams that I'm going to push them by 200 or even 150 pounds, but I will push them by 100 pounds. I'll raise my total by 100 pounds. So if I'm anywhere above 1130, I'm happy at the end of this meet that's 2 days from now. So, all right. Talk to you again.